I'm great, Kyle. How are you?
I'm good. Good. What a wonderful day today.
It's beautiful here.
It is. Great day. I got a question for you, Jeff.
Okay. Am I going to be scored? I mean, is there any pressure? Or is it just a for fun question?
No, this is an important question. There should be tons of pressure.
I just didn't know how hard I had to think about the
I think you
answer.
should think a lot about this one.
All right, I'll think.
Okay, here's the question.
All right.
Dogs or cats?
You know, where we have a couple of dogs in the house and no cats, I'm probably going to have to say dogs.
You'll go with dogs. Okay, I thought you might. I know that you have a couple of dogs in the house, and I know that you're very dedicated pet owners, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
I found an article on MSN.com that might surprise you.
Oh, I'm going to learn a lot about myself, aren't I?
No, not so much about you, but you might learn something about your pet.
Oh, okay.
So tell us about your dogs.
We have 2 German Shepherd dogs. They came from the same litter. One is called Kodiak Bear because he's big,
because he's big and broad like a bow, like a bear.
And the other is Timberwolf because he's long and lanky like a wolf.
Okay, so there you go.
But they're both huge.
Yeah.
We've been out hiking and the dogs have gone over the hill before us and there's been somebody on the other side.
And you hear a scream.
Yes, because I think wolves are coming to get them or something.
So I knew that about you, Jeff. I knew that you had a couple of dogs, and they're great dogs, and I know that you love them and you take great care of them. So I found that there are some actual health benefits to being a dog owner.
Oh, well, good.
So this is good. I also own a dog.
Yes, you do.
His
Rusty.
name is Joey.
Oh, Joey. Rusty was the old one.
Yeah, well, no.
Two-back?
I don't think I've ever had a Rusty.
I thought.
No.
Oh.
I had a Corey.
Okay, well that must be.
Yeah. So our current dog is Joseph Gilroy McLeod Case, but we call him Joey.
He probably appreciates that.
Yeah, we all do because that's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, several health benefits of being a dog owner. Number one, generally speaking, dogs are more likely than other house pets to ask for a walk, to beg to go outside and play a game, and therefore dog owners are more likely to do mild to moderate physical activity during the week.
Especially, there are certain breeds that have a higher play quotient than others, and and German Shepherds have a very high play quotient.
So you find yourselves out a lot.
They would go out for hours if we'd let them.
Well, they found through studying that dog owners walk an average of 300 minutes per week compared to their counterparts' average of 168 minutes per week. So if you are a dog owner, generally speaking, you walk about twice as much. You get twice as much moderate activity as a non-dog owner.
Well, you said dogs or cats, but if you put a leash on a cat, it's just going to sit and stare at you.
Well, yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
So dogs win that one, right? Number 2, now this one was interesting. I thought dogs can help decrease allergy risks.
Really?
Yeah. Now I know you felt that way. I kind of said really the same way because dogs, for some people, do trigger allergies for them.
That's right.
But they have found that they can also lessen allergy risks for kids who grow up with them.
Well, okay, yeah. You build up the tolerance so that later on, okay, I can see that.
And not just that you build up intolerance for your own dog, but you actually are better off from an allergy standpoint if you grow up with a dog.
A tolerance for allergens in general.
Yeah. And they've also found that effect is so strong that even pregnant women who live with a dog can still reduce the likelihood of their child developing allergies.
Well, your mom must not have had a dog.
No, we did not.
Because you have a lot of allergies, I know.
We always had a dog, but it was an outside dog.
Well, that doesn't count.
And we didn't have nearly as much interaction as we do with our dog now. So here's another one that I thought was really interesting. A dog can help detect low blood sugar levels.
Now, that one doesn't surprise me because I'm sure that it's going to change when you breathe. You're breathing out
some kind of a smell or something.
And they're very sensitive and they can smell stuff.
They don't know if it's smell related or not in diabetes and dogs for sure, but they definitely have found that they can detect. The people with diabetes aren't always able to tell by themselves. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they can, but they're not always able to. And trained dogs, now generally speaking, you have to be a trained dog. But they have proven to help provide hypoglycemia monitoring. And in 2013, they published a study in PLUS ONE, which is a publication that deals with medical trained dogs. But they found that dogs were able to notify the owners with significant accuracy at both times of high blood sugar as well as low blood sugar, so they could help in both directions.
Other directions. That's really interesting.
It is interesting, and I thought that was very helpful. My sister has diabetes, and she was diagnosed as a young girl, so she had juvenile diabetes and has lived her whole life with it. And we have gone through those insulin reactions where she actually loses consciousness, and it's scary.
It is very scary.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
In fact, there was one instance a few years back where some police officers found her pulled off on the side of the road, passed out, and they didn't know why.
Wow.
And somehow they found my brother's number and called, and he said, no, she's diabetic, get her some juice, and they were able to. But
they probably had donuts they could give her too.
Or potentially donuts, one or the other. But anyway, I thought that was pretty incredible that dogs can tell and can give a warning, which can be very helpful and increase independence in diabetics. So that was great. Here's another one that probably won't surprise you, but dogs can help curb depression. And again, this is related to the activity aspect. Right. So they found that people who had a pet, a dog in particular, who took them for a walk, it helped ward off depression and loneliness because dog walkers were out, they were getting fresh air, they were exercising, they were moving, and also they were meeting people on their strolls as they're walking through the park or whatever, and it just made them feel happier and gave them an overall better sense of well-being.
Well, and also, the dogs are affectionate creatures, and they'll climb up in your lap, they'll snuggle
lick
up next to you
the inside of your mouth.
So if you let them, when my dogs come near me, my mouth is shut.
Your mouth closes.
Yes,
your mouth closes.
And my hand goes over the top.
But they're very affectionate animals, and I think in a number of ways can help in that depression area. But again, one more point for dogs, one more reason to be a dog owner.
Yep.
The last one. And I have heard this before. You've probably heard it as well. But dogs, obviously, we know, have an incredible sense of smell. And they have found that they're able to detect cancer in as little as 3 hours. So isn't that interesting?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So there's plenty of anecdotal evidence, but they've also been able to sustain that by scientific studies. And a recent study found that a trained scent dog accurately identified whether a patient's urine sample has thyroid cancer or whether it was benign, and they were accurate 88% of the time. So
does that mean when you let the dog out to go, you need to go next to the dog? Because I don't let the dog in the bathroom with me when I'm going.
So there's 5 good reasons, Jeff. 5 good reasons why a dog really might just be mankind's best friend. I don't know where you come up with that.
I'm sorry.
I'm just going to move right past it. I don't even know what to say.
You probably should.
Anyway, isn't that great? Isn't that kind of cool to know? Yeah. I mean, as a dog owner, I thought you might find that interesting. I found it interesting as well. And, it's so amazing what animals can do.
It is. Even for older folks, there's the companion animal. My mom and dad swore they'd never get a dog again, but when they got into their 70s, they got a little lap dog, and
it's been great for them, I'm sure.
But except for they fight over who gets to hold attention, but it's been great overall, yeah.
Well, it is great, and dogs can really make a difference in our lives. And like I said, there is a reason why they call it mankind's best friend.
Yes, it really is.
Excellent. Well, moving on. Today our guest on the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life is truly a world-class athlete.
And teacher.
Yeah. Frank Pierson is one of the world's best archers, and I don't say that lightly. He is actually one of the world's best archers. So joining us from Arizona by phone is Frank Pierson. Frank, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very, very good. Thanks for joining us today.
So first question, Frank, do you have a dog?
Yes, I do.
Well, there you go. There you go.
So you're just right on top of it. We all have dogs.
That's wonderful. Frank is, as I said, a world-class archer, and he's. I hope we're going to get to talk about all of the accomplishments that he has had. But one of the things that he has done that is very unique is that he has been rated as the best in the world 3 separate times in his professional career as an archer. In the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, there was a point where he was rated the very best in the world. The best in the world, Jeff.
I'm impressed. I mean, that's very impressive to over a 3 decades is amazing. I mean, I realize it's not sustained every year over those decades, but to be at the top of your game over 3 decades is quite the accomplishment, Frank. I'm really impressed.
That's amazing. Congratulations. And we want to learn a little bit about that. So tell us, Frank, Tell us about archery. How did you get into the sport of archery? Was that when you were young, or was it later in life, or what was your situation?
I started in 1949. A neighbor of ours gave me a bow, and I've been shooting ever since.
So 1949, you were how old at that time?
9 years old.
So you were very young.
Young, yeah, okay.
And what kind of bow was it? Just like a
Was it the
toy bow? Was it
what they call a long bow?
Okay.
So it was an actual, not a toy, but an actual bow and arrow that you can shoot and go across the yard or greater distances with some accuracy.
Yes, it was a 60-pound York bow.
Okay.
But because I was little and I couldn't pull it back to where it was 60 pounds, it was a lot less than 60 pounds for me to shoot.
Well, yeah, you had to grow into that one.
So for those of us who maybe aren't archers and don't understand what a 60-pound bow means, explain what that is exactly.
Well, it would be 60 pounds if you pulled the arrow back 28 inches.
60 pounds of
and
pressure?
if you pulled it back less than that, it'd be substantially less weight.
So at 9 years old, you're handed this bow. Were your neighbors archers themselves, and did they give you tips as you were learning it, or was it just something that you picked up and felt that you had an affinity for and kept doing?
Well, I think my neighbor got this bow in a yard sale, and he gave it to me with a couple arrows, and I just had to teach myself.
And he said, "Quit hitting that baseball into our window. Go play with the bow." So he gives you this bow, and you discover that you have something of an affinity for it. Did you immediately start shooting competitively, or was it just a hobby for a while? And how did you get into competition?
It was a hobby for quite a while. I never shot any competition until right after I got out of the military, which was in the mid-'60s.
And then what kind of competition did you get into?
I joined the Professional Archery Association and started shooting tournaments on the weekends.
Okay. So I'm interested, Frank. You kind of shot just for fun, and then you go into the military, which congratulations, by the way, and thank you for your service. But then you come home, and how did you make the jump to, okay, I'm going to join this professional association and start shooting competitively? Did you shoot during the military, during the time that you were serving in the military, or was it just something that just kind of came back when you got home?
No, I didn't do much archery the time I was in the military. When I was in there, I was on a 1st Army rifle team for 18 months.
Okay.
But I didn't do much archery until after I got out.
And then when you got out, how did you? I mean, what pulled you back in? I'm just curious how that happened.
A friend of mine threw bow hunting. I went deer hunting with him, and then we found out that there was a local shop that had a league, just like a bowling league, only you did it with bows and arrows.
Okay.
Did you knock down pins as well?
No. It was shot at, the leagues are shot at 20 yards, which is the same length as the bowling alley.
At a traditional target with the
bullseye.
The bullseye, the circles. Okay.
And so you got into those competitions. Did you find right off the bat, Frank, that you were successful, or did it take a while before you started winning things?
Oh, it took quite a while before I started winning things. As soon as I found out that there was no wrong way of doing it, what makes archery so much fun is there's no wrong way of doing it.
Yeah.
You just have to find out how to do it the same way every time.
Just as long as it's your way.
You can use your own method of doing that, but if you continue to do the same thing over and over, the arrow will hit in the same place over and over.
That's the idea, at least, right?
I think Frank Sinatra found that same thing out.
Yeah.
You have to do it my way.
Yeah.
He did it his way.
And he did it over and over, and it was hit.
Number one after one, yep.
So you said it took a while to build up to where you started winning. Did you travel to a lot of different tournaments, or did you kind of do just the local circuit?
I was in New Jersey at the time, and I just shot locally until I started getting pretty good at it, and then I started traveling.
So at what point in your life, how old were you when you said, "Hey, this is something that I'm actually pretty good at, and I'm gonna, take this on the road and see where it can take me"?
About 26.
Okay, so you were still fairly young.
Pretty young, yeah.
Yes.
So you were a professional archer. Is that what actually paid the bills?
No, it's more or less you belong to an association that is called the Professional Archery Association.
Okay.
And it back then it would cost you like $30 to shoot in a tournament, and you could possibly win $800 to $1,000.
Okay, so reasonable prize money.
Tournaments weren't close enough together where you could actually make a living at it.
That was actually pretty good money back then.
Yeah, but there weren't quite enough to make a living, huh?
No. So what did you do for a living? What paid the bills?
I was a welder.
You were a welder.
Oh, okay, all right. And that gave you some flexibility with your time, I guess, so you could hit the road once in a while?
Yes.
Okay, so just walk us through the rest of your professional career. You're 26. You're starting to do pretty well. You're winning some competitions. You're winning a little bit of prize money. That's at least maybe offsetting the cost of travel. Up to the 70s, between there and the 1970s when you became the best in the world. What kind of things were you doing to kind of hone your skills and get to that level?
I was shooting a lot of arrows every day after work. And in any sport, if you start winning a lot, you have an opportunity to pick up sponsors.
Right.
Who will, if you're using their equipment, they'll pay your expenses to the tournaments and help you out that way.
And so you found that became the case for you. You got a sponsor or two, and you were able to again, offset some of your expenses to do what you love to do, right?
Yes.
Well, that's great. That's great.
So were your sponsors local, or did you get some national sponsors?
They were national sponsors.
That's great.
So how did they find you? How do you get hooked up with a national sponsor?
Well, back then, if you shot really well, there were pictures of you in magazines and write-ups, and that's what the sponsors would do. They'd find out who was in the limelight and try to make sure that you had their equipment.
So did they compete with each other to try to get the various shooters? Were you wooed by multiple companies?
Yeah, a couple different companies.
It does.
Becky and I both shot for Browning Archery Company for 16 years.
And Becky is your wife, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't sound like things have changed a whole lot in the world of competitive sports. They still do the same thing. Whoever's getting the big headlines is the one that they want to have wearing their brand or promoting their brand.
It's just like the golfers.
Yeah.
A lot of the top golfers are playing for Nike,
right?
Who makes golf equipment, and archery is the same way.
And so you got the opportunity to do that as a professional. That's pretty incredible. So tell us a little bit about this being rated the best in the world. How does that come about?
The way it was done back then, and it may be still the same way, but Becky and I don't shoot as professionals anymore. We just shoot for the fun of it.
Right.
But back then it was they had a list of tournaments that, like the golfers would call them the majors, and depending on how you placed at all the tournaments throughout the year, you got so many points for where you placed in each tournament. And at the end of the year, they add up the points, and whoever had the most points would end up being ranked number one.
Okay. So that makes sense.
It's not arbitrary at all. It's really based on performance, that's really great.
So when you say in your bio that you were the best in the world in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, are there different age divisions that you shoot in, or is it just you were really the best shooter out there?
Well, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I shot in the normal open class, which would be, to compare it to golf, it would be like the one that Tiger Woods is playing in now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 2000 that I ended up shooting in the senior division.
Okay.
So it was just simply the best in the world overall, regardless. That's even more impressive.
That's awesome.
Because I thought it might have been by age division, but you were still in the open division then, so you were really just on top of things. Now,
yeah, I never shot as a senior until I was almost 60 years old.
Wow. You kept your skills sharp. If you're just joining us, you're listening to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life, and we're visiting with Frank Pierson. And he's a world-class archer. He's been noted as being the very best in the world over 3 decades in his professional career. That's pretty impressive.
And you know what's even as impressive, if not more, Kyle, is that he's willing to share what he knows, his knowledge. He has a school, and he'll teach other people how to shoot, how to be a more successful archer. Tell us about your school, Frank.
Right now, I just do private lessons. And usually it's a 2-day class, and I don't teach any more than 2 people at a time.
So it's one-on-one, really.
Very personalized.
That's great.
But I teach, if the 2 of you came here, I would teach you how to coach each other so that when you leave, you're not dependent on me. You'll have a pretty good idea as to what causes a good shot.
Well,
and you could help each other.
Knowing the 2 of us, that would take some teaching, Frank.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful, Frank. Congratulations on a very storied and successful archery career. That's fantastic. Can we count on you coming back out to the Huntsman World Senior Games this year?
We try to talk everybody we meet into going to the Huntsman Games. It's one of the most enjoyable tournaments that either one of us have ever shot.
Well, wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
That means a lot coming from someone who's really seen it from all angles.
He's
we
traveled
appreciate
the world
that.
shooting, and yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Frank, thank you. Again, congratulations on your wonderful career, and we wish you the best of success in continuing the event that you love to do. That's fantastic.
Well, thank you for your interest.
If someone were to be kind of on the couch about whether or not to come to the games, what is it that you tell them to get them here?
Well, one thing is when you leave the games, you probably have 50 more friends than you ever dreamed of having.
Well,
and the way they take care of the people is just outstanding.
Well, that's great. We're so glad that you feel that way. That, of course, is our goal. We want that to happen when athletes come to the games. Well, Frank, that's about all the time that we have today, but thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, we've been talking about it for weeks now. Jeff, online registration for the games is open. Athletes are definitely registering, and if you are 50 years or older, you can too. Visit our website at www.seniorgames.net to register for one of our 27 different sports. It's worth mentioning that a couple of them are closed. We've actually closed pickleball, and just yesterday we closed bowling because we've reached our participation caps. Volleyball and softball are not far behind, so don't delay. If you're interested in registering for the games, and we hope that you are, please go to the website. Again, it is www.seniorgames.net. And you can take your pick there and be a part of the games, just like Frank has been for the past few years.
That's right, and have the kind of experience that he's experienced.
Jeff, it's also worth noting that this is our 1-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary, Kyle.
Thank you. We have been on the radio doing the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life for 1 year, and it's been wonderful. We've talked to some amazing people. We've covered some important topics, and we look forward to more time.
Yes, and I didn't get you anything.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. Anyway, hey, join us next Thursday, and in the meantime, stay active. Meantime, stay active. Meantime, stay active. Meantime.